Hello, everybody. My name is Roy Nemmer of Mundo Albiceleste.com, and welcome to another video. And this time around, it's actually in regards to what a European player, a European megastar, said about South American football. And we're going to relate this directly to Argentina as well. So if you missed it, Kylian Mbappe, the PSG star, the France star, the megastar, he's obviously been in the news big time in regards to his potential transfer at one point to Real Madrid. He's staying at PSG, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about him and what he said in regards to South American football. If you missed it, Mbappe spoke to TNT Sports in Brazil, where he said Argentina and Brazil don't play games at a high level to get to the World Cup. Football is not as advanced as it is in Europe, and it shows when you watch the last World Cups. Now, there are a couple of ways of looking at this. If you're looking directly at the actual World Cups that have been won by South American teams recently, then yes, the last South American team to win a World Cup was actually Brazil 20 years ago. So it's been 4 World Cups where a South American nation has not lifted the trophy. But does that actually mean that South American teams are not any good? I mean, if we look at it, and we will, if we look at the number of nations, the number of South American countries which qualify for the World Cup, and let's talk about 2022. Well, you have 4 South American countries that have automatically qualified for the World Cup, plus 1 that are about to take part in the playoffs. So you have 4, potentially 5 South American teams at the World Cup. As opposed to Europe, UEFA have 13 countries. So if it's 4 for South America and 13 for Europe, then that's more than triple the amount of teams for Europe. If it's 5 for South America and 13 for Europe, then it's just over double the amount of teams. So right off the bat, a little bit unfair, a little bit unbalanced, but I understand there are 10 South American teams, and obviously not all of them can qualify. It would not be fair. But let's look at the 10 South American teams. And this is a criteria which I'm not the biggest fan of, but to a certain degree is kind of, or gives us some sort of indication. Now, if we look at the South American teams in the FIFA rankings. So number 1, actually, ironically enough, is Brazil. They are ranked first in the rankings, above anyone else, above the world champions France themselves. If we look at Argentina, they are ranked 4th, right behind France, who is 3rd. Uruguay 13, Colombia 17, Peru 22, Chile 28, Ecuador 46, Paraguay 50, Venezuela 58, and Bolivia 78. So that is the rankings. Those are the rankings for South American teams. So for Argentina, it gives us some sort of indication in terms of what they're up against to qualify for the World Cup. Let's look at France for a second, and let's see who they had to play against to qualify for the World Cup. France, ranked 3rd, had to play Ukraine, which are ranked 27, Finland, 57, Bosnia-Herzegovina 59, and Kazakhstan 125. Now, just for argument's sake, and we're just having some fun here, but just for argument's sake, let's combine all 10 South American teams, plus France, plus the countries that France had to play to qualify for the World Cup. Let's look at the different rankings. Now, nothing would change. Brazil would still be first. France would be 3rd. Argentina 4th, Uruguay 13, Colombia 17, Peru 22, Ukraine 27, Chile 28, Ecuador 46, Paraguay 50, Finland 57, Venezuela 58, Bosnia-Herzegovina 59, Bolivia 78, and Kazakhstan 125. Now, if we look at South America specifically in that, and specifically Argentina, who Argentina have to play or had to play to qualify for the World Cup. Well, they had to play Brazil, ranked ahead of France. They had to play Uruguay, Colombia, and Peru. So those are 4 countries. So Argentina had to play Brazil, Uruguay, Colombia, and Peru, 4 countries which in the FIFA rankings are ranked higher than Ukraine. And Ukraine, in the rankings, are the highest ranked team which France had to play against to qualify for the World Cup. So Argentina had to play 4 teams ranked higher than Ukraine. Let's continue looking at the rankings. Right after Ukraine at 27, well, you had Chile at 28, Ecuador 46, and Paraguay 50. So 3 teams ranked higher than Finland, the second best team on paper or in the rankings, which France had to play against. Let's continue. Venezuela at 58 is ranked just higher than Bosnia and Herzegovina at 59. And then you have Bolivia, and then you have Kazakhstan. So Bolivia ranked just a little bit higher than Kazakhstan, who's ranked 125. Now, I'm not the biggest FIFA rankings fan, and I'm using these rankings, I'm using these numbers just for argument's sake, right? I mean, after all, one of the reasons why, for example, I'm not the biggest fan is I don't like the way it's calculated, and sometimes it could give a false impression in terms of who the actual best team is in the world, right? I mean, nothing against Belgium, but at one point they were ranked number 1 for I don't know how long, how many months or how many years, despite the fact that they had never even made a final. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. What I am a fan of, and I'm guessing what Kylian Mbappe is a fan of, is European football, club teams. So really quickly, what or how would European clubs look like without the influence of South American players? And I know I'm going to miss a lot. I'm going to miss an absolute bunch of South American players. But let's take a little look at them. So if we start with, for example, Lionel Messi and Angel Di Maria. I mean, their CVs, their resumes speak for themselves. Their PSG teammate, Leandro Paredes. You try watching PSG when Paredes is not playing and look at their midfield. Not too good. What about Nahuel Molina, the right back from Udinese? Well, he's actually the defender with the most goals in the top 5 European teams. I'm going to repeat that. Nahuel Molina of Argentina is the defender with the most goals in the top 5 European leagues. Not bad. Marcos Acuna, the starting left back for Argentina. Yeah, not bad for Sevilla either. Let's look at, Villarreal, right? You had Foyth, Lo Celso, Rulli, Estupiñán. All 4 players absolutely instrumental in Villarreal's Champions League run. I mean, after all, they eliminated Bayern Munich, didn't they? They sort of pushed Liverpool to the limit to a certain degree. Not a bad run from them. Let's continue. Christian Romero for Tottenham, arguably their best defender. What about Marco Senesi? I mean, Italy wanted him. Roberto Mancini wanted to call him up. Surely the quality of South America cannot be too bad if he's wanted by Italy. We're not done. Let's keep going. Angel Correa, easily one of Atletico Madrid's best players this season. Lautaro Martinez, top scorer for Inter. What about Liverpool? Liverpool are in the Champions League final. They're up against Madrid. What's their South American influence? I mean, Luis Diaz has looked like the buy of the season for them, an absolute game changer. Alisson, their starting goalkeeper. Fabinho, Roberto Firmino. Not bad. Not bad. And I'm not just talking about this season, but taking into consideration the past couple of seasons, right? Because Mbappe'S comment was taking a look at the last World Cups. Now, let's not forget, all these players, plus the ones I'm going to mention, all play and train in Europe. So they play against the best. They train against the best. Now, that was Liverpool. What about, just for fun, Uruguay? I mean, Luis Suarez, past couple of seasons, by far one of the best strikers of his generation. Araujo, tremendous talent. You have, if you want to go for an up-and-comer, let's say another up-and-comer for Uruguay, and one that could definitely make a difference, Darwin Nunez. What about Jimenez of Atletico Madrid? Speaking of Madrid, what about Real Madrid? They're in the Champions League final. They got a couple of South Americans. Eder Militao, Marcelo, Casemiro, Valverde, Vinicius, Rodrigo. Heck, Dani Alves for Barcelona is still starting and still playing at his age. Surely they've got to be doing something, right? What about Manchester City? Sergio Aguero, right? He had to retire, but we're talking about the past couple of years. Fernandinho, a great servant for Manchester City. Ederson, right? Apparently one of the best goalkeepers with his feet in the world, alongside Manuel Neuer. I'm not going to disagree with that. All these players, they all play in Europe every single weekend. Every single weekend. Jorginho, he's Brazilian. He's born in Brazil, represents Italy. Still born in South America. At one point, there were shouts for him to be the Ballon d'Or winner or, the FIFA best player. He's born in Brazil. Thiago Silva, instrumental in Chelsea's Champions League run last season. He's born in South America, and he's still playing at his age. So you have a lot of South American players playing at the absolute highest level. Absolute highest level. Which is why I find Mbappe'S comment a little bit, I'm not just going to say controversial, but flat out disrespectful. Because it is. And another thing that some people maybe don't always realize or don't always think about, it's actually the traveling. This is something that Emiliano Martinez spoke about recently. He said it takes a toll on you. When you travel from Europe all the way to South America, it's tiring. And anyone who's ever gotten on any kind of flight, especially one where you have to cross an ocean, trust me, it's very, very tiring. Now, let's take a look just really, really quickly at those numbers, so to speak. So from London to Buenos Aires, so someone like Emiliano Martinez or let's say Cristiano Romero, they're based in London, they're based in England. They got to fly to South America, they got to fly to Buenos Aires, to Argentina. Well, according to Google, just a quick little Google search, it's 6,914 miles or 11,127 kilometers. Flight time, about 14 hours and 18 minutes. So essentially, you are playing on Saturday or Sunday, taking a 14-hour flight all the way to South America, training for 2-3 days, playing a match, training for a day, playing another match, in between traveling within South America, and good luck on the locations there, because sometimes you might have a long flight, and then having to take another 14-hour flight back to Europe, resting for a day or two, and then playing for your club. Mbappe wanted to talk about the previous World Cups. So let's do that. Let's take a look at the last two World Cups. And let's take a look at France, for example. France, World Cup winners in 2018. I'm not saying undeserved. Absolutely solid team, top to bottom. Absolutely incredible, stacked. What more can you say? I'm not arguing that by any means. But Argentina, arguably the most disorganized team of that tournament, more disorganized than 2010, took France to the absolute limit, more than Croatia did, more than any other country. Argentina with, and I say this with full respect, with Christian Pavón starting and a not too good or informed Marcos Rojo starting, nearly eliminated France. And I know people are going to watch this and say, oh, well, it's nearly, and they didn't, and France won the World Cup. Absolutely. But World Cups or knockout matches are a matter of centimeters or inches or whatever you want to call them. So you're going to tell me if Argentina, their last kick of the game, that cross into the penalty area, had Federico Fazio scored that and made it 4-4, and by some miracle, Argentina wins that match. And I know it's a big what if, right? And I'm playing devil's advocate here. But if somehow, some way, Federico Fernandez scores that, France had all of their superstars substituted out. So somehow, some way, Argentina eliminate France. Don't win the World Cup, but eliminate France. Does that suddenly mean that, South American teams they're actually not too bad? No. It's a matter of centimeters. It's a knockout match. Anything can happen. You can hit the post, you can hit the crossbar, you get VAR was still being introduced, a bad call from the referee. Anything can happen. Anything can happen, right? So credit to the Europeans. They did well that World Cup. But if you still want to take a look at that World Cup, Uruguay made life extremely difficult for France. Peru made life extremely difficult for France. They faced 3 South American teams. They won by 1 goal every single time. Again, I'm not discrediting France by any means. I'm not saying they did not deserve to win that World Cup, because you'd be hard-pressed to find a stronger team than them or a more stacked team than them. All I'm saying is sometimes you need some luck to win a trophy. France maybe got it a couple of times. That's fine. You create your own luck. But that was 2018. Now, if you want to go to 2014, where, in my opinion, it was South American dominated. Absolutely South American dominated. And let's look at that. Let's see what happened in 2014. So 2014, you had the reigning world champion Spain, which were eliminated in the group stages. They lost 2-0 versus Chile. You had Colombia, which topped Group C. You had Costa Rica, a team from CONCACAF, and Uruguay, a team from CONMEBOL, which eliminated Italy and England, 2 big European powerhouses, right? According to many, and there's no doubt about it, Italy are a European powerhouse. England as well. So those 2 teams knocked out in the group stages. You had France, Kylian Mbappe'S France, albeit, yes, Mbappe was not playing in 2014, but you had France, who were unable to get the better of Ecuador and drew. And then you had an Argentina team which eliminated Switzerland, Belgium, and the Netherlands all the way to the final, where, in my opinion, and I'm really trying to not be biased at all, in my opinion, Argentina were superior to Germany in that final, but we know what happened in that final. So if all of a sudden Higuain had his shooting boots on, or Rodrigo Palacio was able to score that goal, or Messi from that difficult angle was able to get the better of Neuer, and Argentina won, would that suddenly mean that, oh, okay, well, you know what, South America is not so bad after all? No, it doesn't mean anything. Yes, obviously it means something, but in this context, it doesn't mean too much. 1 goal was the difference in that final. Doesn't mean Germany were far superior than Argentina, right? At the end of the day, it's what you're able to do with the ball. It's how many goals you could score. I'm not arguing that. But going back to his original comment, to Mbappe's original comment, like I said, it's flat out disrespectful. It's a matter of cycles. Football, matter of cycles, just like any other sport. At one point, you have South American teams that are going to dominate. If you go back to the 80s or 90s or even the early 2000s, Argentina made the final in 86 and won it, made the final in 90 and lost it. You go a little bit before, they made the final in 78 and won it. So, and you had 78, Argentina, 82, no South American team in the final. 86, 90, 94, 98, 2002, you had either Argentina or Brazil in the World Cup final, with Argentina winning a couple and Brazil winning a couple. So, to a certain degree, like I said, it's all in cycles. And taking everything I just said, the amount of South American players, if you take those South American players out of Europe, out of those clubs, the quality will no doubt diminish. No doubt at all. So let me know what you thought of my comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there a point you liked? Is there something I missed? Let me know, and hopefully you liked the video. And if you did, hit that like button. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and hit that notifications button to never miss a thing. Once more, my name is Roy Nemmer of Mundo Albiceleste.com, and thank you for watching.